Today, we're going to explore a big idea in psychology. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's all about how people see their own abilities and why that view is often very wrong. In simple words, people who know little often think they know a lot. Now, while true experts sometimes doubt themselves, but here's the interesting part. This effect doesn't always look the same in every culture. In 1999, colleges David Dunning and Justin Kruger tested students in humor, grammar, and logic. After the test, people guessed how well they had done. The worst performers thought they were above average, and the best performers often thought they were just average. Like Socrates once said, the only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing. So, in other terms, the wise know their limits while the unskilled don't. Why does this happen? Well, Dunning and Kruger said that the skills we need to do something well are often the same skills we need to judge our own performance. For example, if you do not know grammar rules, you cannot also recognize your own grammar mistakes. If you are weak in logic, you can't see when your reasoning is wrong. This is called a metacognitive problem. People not only make mistakes, but they also cannot see that they're making mistakes. This is the double burden. In other words, people lack skill, and because they lack that, they also lack the ability to see their own mistakes. Like Charles Darwin once said, ignorance more frequently begets confidence than does knowledge. In other words, low skill creates high confidence. And we can see this everywhere. Here's an example. The lemon juice robber. One of the stories that inspired this research is about MacArthur Wheeler, a man who robbed two banks in Pittsburgh in 1995. He thought that rubbing lemon juice on his face would make him invisible to security cameras, because lemon juice is used as invisible ink. He believed in his idea so strongly that he robbed the banks in broad daylight without a mask, and of course he was caught easily. This extreme story shows how confidence without knowledge can lead to very bad decisions. Another example is a driver says, "I'm great at driving," but then gets into an accident, or someone reads an article on the internet about diets and suddenly becomes a nutrition expert. It happens a lot, and the internet is not helping. In politics, those who know the least often shout the loudest. For example, Donald Trump. The British philosopher Bertrand Russell said that the stupid are very sure, while the intelligent are full of doubt. Ignorance hides itself in what psychologists call unknown unknowns. We don't even know what we don't know. All right. Montaigne, a French philosopher, once said, "Nothing is so firmly believed as what is least known." This is why false confidence feels so real. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting. The Dunning-Kruger effect doesn't look the same in every culture. For example, in Western countries like the United States, people are taught to be confident, to sell themselves. So when someone performs badly, they may still rate themselves very highly. But in many East Asian cultures like Japan or Korea, there is a cultural value of modesty and self-criticism. People there are more likely to underestimate themselves even when they perform well. Studies show that Japanese students, for example, give lower ratings of their ability compared to American students with the same performance. So the Dunning-Kruger effect might be weaker or reversed in cultures that value humility. In those spaces, high performers may underestimate themselves even more, while low performers may not overestimate themselves as strongly. In short, confidence is not about psychology, it's also about culture. The good news, people can improve. In the original studies, when students were given training in logic, they not only got better, but they also judged themselves more realistically. Here's where Confucius gives us some advice. Real knowledge is to know the extent of one's ignorance. Training and feedback can turn false confidence into honest self-awareness. So let's put it all together. So the Dunning-Kruger effect shows how people with low skill often think too highly of themselves, while experts often doubt themselves. Philosophers across history, from Socrates to Russell, already knew this truth. The effect is not the same everywhere. Culture matters. In the West, confidence often goes up when ability goes down. And in the East, modesty can mean people underestimate their skills. The way out is through education, feedback, and humility. And as the great poet Alexander Pope said, a little learning is a dangerous thing. So let's keep learning, keep questioning, and remember, if you feel 100% sure, maybe check again. Thank you for listening. And remember, in life, lemon juice is not sunscreen and will not make you invisible to cameras. I'm Mikael, and this is what I learned today. Bye.